Man, I am on a roll when it comes to these live albums and these live performances, and it really got me thinking of all these different things that I really want to talk about when it comes to these live performances. One thing that I love and hate when it comes to a live performance is the medley. This is when a band has a large back catalog and they decide to play a bunch of tracks as one single piece, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes. Some fans love it and some fans hate it because they'd rather hear the entire track in its entirety. The way that I've structured this one is a medley, in my mind, is a track that comprises of at least 3 songs from their back catalog. Otherwise, if it's only 2, I consider that more of a mashup rather than a medley. They need to be a single track if it's on a live recording. So not kind of chopped up into their individual tracks or anything like that. It needs to be its own single piece of music if it's on a live physical disc. And all of these have been released in a physical disc. And it also made it a little bit harder because there were a few on here that I wanted to talk about, but they didn't qualify for that. Like there's a lot of Queen medleys where they chop up the songs individually on the recording piece. So that kind of, they also have to be tracks that the band themselves have written. I think that's it. I think those are the qualifiers for this one. So again, as with the last couple of live things that I've done, these aren't in any ranked list. They're just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first one's not the best. The last one's not the best. They're all great. They're all beautiful. They're all also in one way, shape, or form progressive rock because that's what I talk about here. So let's talk about the first one, being the Octopus medley from Gentle Giant featured on Playing the Fool. Now, some of these, not all of them, but some of these are from a single album, and this is one of them, and I love the Octopus medley. They take pieces from here and there from each of the brilliant tracks from Octopus. Not all of them made the cut, but it provides this brilliant breadth of music in this. I love the ebb and flows. I love the passing of the baton from one track to another. At no point does it ever feel rushed or hurried or unnatural. It does feel like a single massive track on here. I think it's one of their best performances, and they did this a number of times in their live sets. There's a part of me that does wish that they would just play the entirety of Octopus, but I also understand why they don't. So that's where I'm at for the Octopus medley from Gentle Giant. The next one that I want to talk about is the In the Cage medley from Genesis off their album of 3 Sides Live. Now they've done this a number of times, and even once before on a bootlegged version that I have, which is From the Mouth of the Monster, and I actually enjoyed that one the most. They also did one for live across Europe, but generally they either start with In the Cage or they start with the cinema show. They then play up to the big play out, and then they steamroll into a little bit of Duke's Travels or Duke's End, and then incorporate something from the other track, which is either In the Cage or Cinema Show. So if they started with In the Cage, the medley is incorporating the Cinema Show playout. If it's the Cinema Show, then they're playing a lot of the In the Cage moments, and then they finish it off with the Afterglow, which is usually its second track, but in my mind, it kind of flows as one complete unit of music. And it is just brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. What they're able to put on for 3 Sides Live, I think, was outstanding. And I love that 3 tracks right into the finale that is Afterglow. Because Afterglow really is a track that needs to come out at the end of this massive crescendo. From the Mouth of the Monster, it has that energy that really ushers forth. And I always feel like whenever they do this now, they always pull their punch back after that big crescendo when they get into Afterglow, so that it's much more mellow. I really like when they use that inertia, that momentum that they have with that big medley once they get into Afterglow to really elevate it to this next level. It's one of the best progressive rock movements, and I love what they're able to capture on 3 Sides Live, and it really is the main reason to buy 3 Sides Live, because a lot of the other tracks that they have on there are fine. So yeah, let's move on to another one. Number 3, the Big Medley from Yes on The World Is Live. So I actually bought this as a big box set way back in the day, and it had a number of really nasty skips on the second and third disc, because I believe it's a 3 or 4 disc live album. And I returned it to the store that I bought it from to get another one, and the same thing happened with that. So I don't know if it was like a pressing issue or a manufacturing error. Maybe eventually I'll go out and actually pick it up again. But I don't know. I returned it and got my money back because I didn't enjoy how much, because it wasn't cheap too. It was like $80, and this was like 15 years ago that it came out. So like, that's a lot of money for a box set. But one of the main reasons why I picked this up was the Big Medley. This has a number of stellar tracks, and they essentially play the entire track before they move on to the next one, and they include it as a single track. I love the playing styles. I love the fact that they don't cherry pick the best moments and play practically the entirety of the track before moving on to the next one. Starting off with a time on the word, they ended off with Soon. So very much like Afterglow from the Genesis medley that I just finished talking about, Soon is that track that really needs to follow up this big granular blast of sound to wrap the whole thing off. So you're starting off with Time on a Word, going into Long Distance, going into Survival, going into The Fish, almost finishing off with Perpetual Change, and then ending it off with Soon. It's just mwah, mwah, mwah. This was released back in like 1978 or 79, and dang, as if it isn't tasty. I think it was a really great job of putting that down here. If you haven't already listened to The World Is Live from Yes, it really does catalog right from 1971 all the way through to 1988. And it really goes through their playing styles. I still think this is one of their best live releases. I just wish that the album that I got didn't skip a whole lot. I mean, luckily it's now available on streaming services, so you can actually enjoy it. But yeah, so that's where I'm at for the Big Medley from Yes. Brilliant, brilliant output. Love it to death. I think it's one of Yes's greatest live performances. And yeah, how can you not love it? Let's move on to the next one. Number 4, Aqua Medley by Haken from Live. So I've already talked about Live from Haken, but yeah, the Aqua Medley is one of my favorites. It is a little bit of a double-edged sword because it does take the best pieces from each of the tracks from Aquarius, very similar to the Octopus Medley from Gentle Giant, but it also showcases that you really do need those smaller moments from these tracks to really elevate the brilliance of the track itself. I do feel as though the final crescendo when it comes to Celestial Elixir is cut off by the knees when you don't have that big kind of driving crescendo to it, coming from Drowning in the Flood all the way into that. Now, that being said, this still holds some of Haken's best music, and it's one of my favorite productions of this album. I love the ebb and flow of this. I love the passing of the baton from one piece to another. And it does take the best pieces from each of the tracks. So yeah, I love Aqua Medley. There's not too much more that I need to say about it. It's just a great medley of progressive rock music. Let's go on to the last one. Number 5, Instrumentally by Dream Theater, live in Budokan. Okay, so you know this one was coming. I was saving it until last. Yeah, this one by far is probably one of my favorites. And this isn't the only medley. I really wanted to do the Schmedley Wilcox one that they put out from Chaos in Motion, because I really do love that one. I love how it starts off with Trial of Tears, goes into the last track from the Train of Thought, and then right into Octavarium. Again, a brilliant stretch of 3 tracks, but I had to put my pride aside, and I really had to say that the instrumentally from Dream Theater, from Budokan, probably a little bit better, taking the best parts from all these different instrumental pieces, instrumental tracks. Love it. I love the ebb and flow. I love how they're able to construct this new, unique piece by utilizing the best snippets from all these other tracks. Just brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. It showcases the technical prowess of all the boys in the band and their ability to rejuvenize some of these older tracks. What can I say that hasn't already been said about Instrumentally from Dream Theater? Absolute banger of a track. And those are my 5. I left off a few that I still wanted to talk about, but I didn't have quite enough time. So some honorable mentions is the R30 Overture from Rush from R30, as well as the medley from Transatlantic from Live in America, where they're playing one track from Spock's Beard, from Marillion, from Dream Theater, and from the Flower Kings, and ending it off with Hey Jude. They're all fantastic, but I did want to keep this into a 5 rather than a 7, because I honestly couldn't think of any other ones. But yeah, those are the ones that I've got. So what did you guys think? What are your favorite medleys from a live group? If it's been recorded, please let me know, because I always love listening to new medleys. Let me know by commenting down below. And that's what I've got. So thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you see and you want to help support me, consider donating to my Patreon. I've left a link down below. And if you want to check out more stuff, check out my podcast of Quid Pro Quo, as well as my other YouTube channel of notes on tabletop role-playing games. That's what I got. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.